And stations now the final time check before the start of hour number one of The Line of Fire with Dr. Michael Brown. 30 seconds until hour number one from Mark. That was our final verbal time check for The Line of Fire with Dr. Michael Brown. We'll have a long tone at 10 seconds before, followed by a short one at 5 seconds. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Friends, this is it. The big interview on QAnon. You're going to hear the truth today.
It's time for The Line of Fire with your host, activist, author, international speaker, and theologian, Dr. Michael Brown, your voice of moral, cultural, and spiritual revolution. Michael Brown is the director of the Coalition of Conscience and president of Fire School of Ministry. Get into The Line of Fire now by calling 866-34-TRUTH. That's 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
I did a search yesterday on Bing.com rather than Google, just looking for QAnon, and there were 95 million references to it that came up. That is a whole lot. This has been a subject of discussion with the president, with him saying, I don't know much about it, and with others saying he's directly involved. What's the truth about QAnon? This is Michael Brown. I'm about to be joined by Professor James Beverly, a top research scholar, highly respected in many fields of research, who has devoted day and night attention for months now to the subject of QAnon, writing a brand new book, a book that's so important that to get it out immediately, our own publishers, Equal Time Publishing, has put the book out. The title, The QAnon Deception, Everything You Need to Know About the World's Most Dangerous Conspiracy. When we announced this on internet last night, immediately people went to Amazon to order the book. We could track it in front of our eyes. Immediately, hundreds of comments began pouring in on all sides of the issue, including comments like this one. QAnon is only dangerous because it reveals the dark truths no one wants to hear or believe. Another one said this: you are the dangerous one teaching CRAP, with a sad crying face and a vomit face. Truth is a beautiful thing. Q. Well, today you're going to find out exactly who QAnon is and why this is important. Welcome to The Line of Fire. If you are convinced that QAnon is a source of truth, an important source of truth for Americans and for the world, then by all means give us a call and tell us why. 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. Without further ado, Jim, welcome back to The Line of Fire.
Thanks, Michael. It's great to be here.
Now, you're in Canada right now, correct?
Yep, on the East Coast in New Brunswick, one of the safest places in the world. Thankfully, I'm grateful that we live here.
Great. Well, I'm glad
other parts.
Glad you're there safe, especially with the subject matter of today, which I say with a half smile. Okay, first question, and I want to lay out some fundamentals and really try to get people an understanding of what's going on. First question, before we talk about QAnon, even your expertise, why should we care? Why is this such big news? What's the big deal about QAnon?
We should care because it's a multifaceted conspiracy theory that's now in over 100 countries of the world. And we should care because there's a lot of faulty, dangerous, misleading theories that are part of QAnon. Now, let me tell your listeners right away that my book is not anti-Trump. I actually argue that QAnon hurts Trump and that he should separate himself from it. He can keep all the good parts, but a lot of the stuff that Q stands for and QAnon's about are false and misleading. leads to criminality in some cases, and leads to the spreading of outright falsehoods.
All right, and you even cite in your book one of the best known avid Trump supporters, and one who is very open to looking at conspiracies to see if they're true, and he believes that QAnon is a bunch of bunk as well. By the way, you'll be glad to know that for just the introductory comments, you're already being called a clown. So not by the majority, right. But you are going to have. But this is good. We're going to flush all this out. Okay, so QAnon is.
Well, Michael, let me say one thing. In the first part of my book, I lay out about 15 rules on how to think and research effectively. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's important is realizing that name calling doesn't settle truth. So people can call me clown, or they can call me a genius. Well, I like the genius one better, but name calling is not a good way to get to truth.
Well, good. Listen, I've just been told I'm part of the deep state. So it's amazing, especially to be part of things that you don't even know. If you said to me, Mike, okay, connect to the deep state, talk to someone in the deep state, I'll give you $1 million if you could do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? If the deep state's there, it's hidden. But in any case, good. I'm glad we're gonna flush a lot of stuff out. But first, for those who don't know you, I don't want you to sound humble here, okay? You've been at this for years. You've taught decades at the university level. Why should we care what Jim Beverly has to say about QAnon?
Well, I've done a lot of work on it. I collected over 1,700 articles and opinion pieces. I read a lot of Q material. I read a lot of stuff from the Q teachers. So I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours investigating QAnon. I didn't know much about it when I started, but now I know a lot. So I've committed a lot of time to study this, and I've been careful. I've communicated with various people in the QAnon world, also talked to experts, and analyzed things very carefully.
All right, but more about your own background as a research scholar.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've been a professor for 42 years. I have, 4 university degrees, including a PhD. I've specialized in the study of religions. In fact, in my library, I have one of the books. I could show it up to the camera. I helped Gordon Melton do a 2-volume Encyclopedia of American Religions. It has information on 2,500 groups. So I've specialized in apologetics, Christian philosophy, and new and world religions. I actually love figuring out who's telling the truth. I've been involved.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
And that's one thing I've learned, Jim, is as we've known each other's work for some years, but then we've gotten to know each other well. This last year, spent many hours talking on the phone, interacting via email. And I just want you to know, folks, if I needed to hire an academic person to research something, say, look, I don't know anything about this, if it's true or not, whatever the particular thing was, I don't know I could find a better person than Jim Beverly. I mean that. I mean, he's one of these guys who's going to look at every detail, is going to look at each side, what's true, what's not true, try to analyze it, try to understand it. And when he came to QAnon, he came with questions more than with presuppositions, determining to look in. The more he dug, the more things became clear to him. What's amazing, though, Jim, is I just glanced at some comments being made in our social media streams. There is so much emotional reaction. For example, someone challenging me, how many pro-life events have I attended? Well, I've actually been arrested at pro-life events and been a keynote speaker at pro-life events, and have been on the front line helping pro-lifers for many, many years. But rather than people actually look at data like you do and say, as you'll say to me, Michael, I'm not sure what to make of this. I've got to dig deeper and dig deeper. And we've been on some journeys together where you were the fact finder behind the scenes, digging, looking, digging, and then you came to conclusions, and now those conclusions have been verified factually. So it's not like you had a dog in this fight coming in. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't know much about QAnon when I started. I was open to various possibilities. But my suspicions were aroused right away when I discovered that Q, the famous mysterious person, he actually began his work on the swamp of the internet. Q has always posted on the worst internet platforms, 4chan, 8chan, and then 8Q. Why would somebody high up in the US military working with Trump post in the middle of a rubble of hatred, anti-Semitism, racism, hardcore pornography? And to this day, that's where the Q post starts, which is why many scholars believe that Q is actually directly connected with the guy named Jim Watkins, who lives in the Philippines. He's a U.S. citizen, and he's been known for distributing pornography, and he owns the 8Q channel that hosts Q. So I have I don't even give a thought anymore to the idea that Q works with Trump. I think that's a mistake. And there's even been some careful computer work recently showing that Q is most likely this pig farmer named Jim Watkins.
All right, so
I think he got into the Q world, he and his son, because they liked the idea of promoting Trump. And by the way, I want to tell listeners, one reason QAnon's attractive is because it's not totally wrong. QAnon people know that mainstream media can be biased. QAnon people know that religious liberty is often crushed in our days. Conservative Christians are often sidelined. So there's some important, authentic truths in QAnon. But the core theory about a satanic cabal run by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and the Democrats, I don't believe that's true. If that was true, Trump would have had Hillary arrested when the Republicans ran both the House and the Senate.
Yeah, so I'm going to put out an open challenge right now, as I'm looking at some of the most ridiculous, even idiotic comments being posted in some of our streams. I'm talking about downright ignorant, wrong. Call the show. Call the show. 866-34-TRUTH. 866-348-7884. If you are so sure.
Hey, Michael.
Go Jim, ahead. Hang on one second. Friends, if you are so sure that without even reading the book, I can guarantee you that you've probably done 1/100th, 1/1000th of the research that Jim Beverly's done. Maybe if you've researched it day and night, you've done 1/10 of the research that he's done. Rather than post the comments, posting lies about people, why not call the show and make your case for Q? The fact that you go on the attack before you even hear the evidence, the details, and like I said, I can virtually guarantee you've done a fraction of the research that Jim has done, reveals that we are hitting a nerve, that something is going on here and people are looking in the wrong places for truth. We're going to expose it today, right here. The famous Balfour Declaration, what exactly was it? Well, it was in 1917, and it was a British declaration saying that there would be a national homeland for the Jews in Palestine. You have to remember the whole land was dubbed Palestine in the 2nd century after the destruction of Jerusalem. And now Hadrian is going to dub the whole land, what was Israel, call it Palestine. So that would be a degrading term. But then that just was what it was known for, the land of the Philistines, Palestine. But there had always been a Jewish presence there. At that time, so you're talking about now the time of World War I, in the centuries previous to this, this was just part of the Ottoman Empire, all right? Now with shifts in World War I, and now there's colonization, and now Western powers kind of carving up the Middle East and things like that. This were some of the nation states we have today were first birthed in those ways because they were just tribal peoples living in different regions. Now things got carved out a certain way. Well, what about the Jews? Well, this is their ancient homeland. So let's look to give them a national homeland in Palestine. This was all that was envisioned. It was a very positive step forward and looked at historically. So amazingly, we just passed a few years ago now the 100th anniversary of this declaration associated with Lord Balfour. Unfortunately, over a period of years, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, changed its tune. And instead of being as fully sponsoring of this concept, there was a shift. And to this day, you can even see much more pro-Christian Zionist thought in America than you can in England, because Zionism is still looked at negatively in many ways because of a shift that took place, especially with the birthing of modern Israel. But the Balfour Declaration, very important, 1917, and helped set the tone for what happened today.
It's The Line of Fire with your host, Dr. Michael Brown. Get into the Line of Fire now by calling 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
Friends, take a moment, go to Amazon, order your own copy of the QAnon Deception. It'll be one of the most eye-opening things you have ever read in your life. Let's go to Amazon right now. That's where you can get it. You can get the ebook, you can get the paper book, the QAnon Deception, James Beverly. And Jim, as I'm just watching some of the comments, it's a minority of the people, but the fanatical belief in QAnon, we are all over the world, you can't stop us. This is the reason that this must be exposed, and it must be exposed in a God-fearing way. A couple of things right off the bat. Are all conspiracy theories wrong?
No. Generally, people use the word conspiracy as a negative thing. Oh, that's conspiracy. Mm-hmm. But sometimes conspiracy theories are true. For example, I believe there was a conspiracy to do a burglary on the Watergate building, and that's what brought Richard Nixon down, his lies about the cover-up of the real burglary. So sometimes conspiracy theories are true.
All right.
One trouble with QAnon is there's so many conspiracy theories, it blows up. You know, I made a list in my book, and it's things like the Pope has already been killed by people working with Trump. Queen Elizabeth II's part of the Satanic Cabal. JFK Jr. is still alive. George Floyd is not dead. Lizard people are real. Mother Teresa engaged in child trafficking. Justin Bieber's a victim of the pedophile ring. There's already conspiracies about the van that blew up in Nashville. Some QAnon people are saying that the van had some secret documents that would expose the cabal. So the one trouble with QAnon is it blows up because it says too many things. And another thing that goes on is Q teachers say stuff without proof, and they don't show enough care to back up what they say. So, for example, they'll say John McCain was executed by Trump, or they'll say that here's a new one I just read from a Q teacher named Joe M. That Joe Biden had his first wife and son killed and wanted to kill Hunter as well. These claims are made without proof, without careful research, and it's a tragedy. It leads people into the rabbit hole of conspiracy. And in the case of QAnon, it's largely a distortion and a misleading venture, sad to say.
It's not just sad that people are believing lies, ridiculous, ludicrous lies, but it's sad that they have now put their life in it, that this is truth. The way some people will respond to your book is as if you had denied the existence of God, or as if you had tried to demonstrate Jesus didn't rise from the dead. It's as if their whole life depends on it. And it's just like the devil to suck you in a little and then bring you in further and further until he almost mocks you with the absurdity of things. Now, in your judgment, does that mean that all followers of QAnon are stupid?
No, it's not an issue of low IQ or craziness in the psychiatric sense. Here's what I believe happens. People get seduced by a worldview or philosophy, and then they come to believe things that they shouldn't believe. But it's not that they're stupid. In fact, some of the Q teachers are phenomenally sophisticated at social media. I don't doubt their intelligence at all. And I believe the vast majority of QAnon members or followers are sincere people. I would challenge them, though, Michael. Most QAnon people are pro-Trump. Well, one thing my book argues is that QAnon actually hurts the president. It hurts him because it links him with a whole bunch of crazy theories. And that's why he gets attacked in relation to QAnon. I actually don't think he knows much about it. I believe that if he knew more about it, he would realize that its unique theories are not true. QAnon people hurt President Trump by advocating bizarre theories, untrue theories, by spreading, I've read more religions and about more religions and philosophies than most people. And this is one of the most hateful ideologies I've ever read. The comments against Barack Obama, George Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, the comments against Democrats, it gets incredibly hateful. And the important thing is a lot of the stuff that's said is untrue.
Right. And again, friends, please hear what Jim Beverly just said, that he believes ultimately that this hurts Donald Trump. So this is not a Trump basher, all right? And he's being interviewed by me, a two-time Trump voter. So this is not an attack on Donald Trump, nor is this looking the other way at pedophilia. Say, well, no. Quite the contrary. It's saying, let us get to truth, because the more we pursue error, then we cannot help anyone with that. All right, so who is Q?
Actually, Michael, let me just say a word there about the child trafficking issue.
Yeah.
Anybody with brains knows that children are trafficked. There's a sex trafficking industry, etc.
Yep.
However, what most people don't know is that over 100 different organizations that try to rescue children have gone public and said that QAnon hurts the real work of helping children. In fact, I got the comment in front of me from the organizations. Anybody who lends any credibility to QAnon conspiracies related to human trafficking actively harms the fight against human trafficking. I hope QAnon fans listen to that. Now, here's what the Q teachers have said. They've said all the 100 and plus organizations that help children are actually infiltrated by the deep state.
Wow.
See, that's their convenient move. No matter what is said, you can just twist the conspiracy to solve any problem.
Extraordinary. And let me emphasize that we have quite a few grads from our ministry school who have been working against human trafficking for years, that are raising orphans that were trafficked as infants and toddlers, and now they've taken them in and raising them. Others working every way they can with government agencies, outside of government agencies in America and other countries to fight against pedophilia, to fight against sex trafficking of children. I'm talking about colleagues of mine that have been on the front lines of this for years now, and they would add their voices to what you just said, over 100 organizations working against child trafficking, that QAnon is hurting the cause. All you QAnon supporters who are so angry with us daring to expose things today, just know that you are helping the pedophiles, not hurting them. What do you think of that? And if you want the backdrop, if you want the details, friends, get the QAnon deception. Go ahead, Jim.
One of the things that QAnon followers should realize is that if there is a satanic cabal, a global elite led by people like Hillary Clinton, Barack, and it's the most powerful evil ever known in history, well, then you know what? It's just sort of amazing that people put their name publicly connected to QAnon. If you heard now, Michael, that there's a group of killers coming to attack your radio show, or there's a group of evil people that are going to burn down your neighborhood, you're not going to open your front door to them. But the people who are public Q teachers, like, for example, Dave Hayes is the most famous Christian advocate. Dave has no trouble being public about it. But listen, Dave, let me just say a word to him. Dave, if you really think this is the most evil empire ever known, why aren't you in hiding? I think it's because, in a way, these Q teachers know that this is basically a myth. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of outright fraud or lying. I think people are just really deceived on this one.
All right. Let's just take 30 seconds. Who is Q supposed to be?
He's supposed to be someone high up in the U.S. military who was tagged by President Trump to do elite work for the president. And his job is to release special messages to people. And he's done that about 5,000 times since October 28th, 2017. The trouble with that theory is whoever Q was at the start is not the same person as gives the Q post now. That person or persons have changed. And Trump has never given any indication that someone high up in the U.S. military is doing the Q post.
And 15 seconds, the fundamental thesis of QAnon is?
That there's an international cabal of human sex traffickers led by people like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, the Democratic elite, the Pope, Queen Elizabeth, the Dalai Lama's involved apparently, just goes on and on. This is the most evil empire that's ever existed.
Got it.
So that's what QAnon is pushing.
All right. And all of the other things that Jim has mentioned thus far are subplots to that. All right. Phone lines are jammed. We're going to flesh this out a little more, and then we're going to go to the phones. I've asked you to call, and you've called, and you're going to get to speak your mind to Professor James Beverly, the book, The QAnon Deception.
So why does a good God allow evil in the world? I don't just mean suffering, but evil. Things that are so ugly, things that are so dark, things that are so despicable, things that are so contrary to goodness. Why does God allow them in his world? And the answer is simple. And that answer is choice. That answer is freedom. He has given us a choice. He has put us in an environment where we can choose good, we can refuse evil. God could have created Adam and Eve and given us no choice. He put them in a beautiful, perfect world and said you can obey and be blessed, or you can disobey and be cursed. He gave a choice because love cannot be coerced. And if I said to each of you, I can do an operation on your brain, you'll no longer be able to make choices, but you'll be trouble-free the rest of your life. Would you take that, or would you say, no, I'd rather be able to make choices? Here's what God said to the people of Israel. Moses gave this challenge in Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I've set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore choose life, that you and your offspring may live. He gives us a choice and says, you determine whether it will be blessing or curse, whether it will be life, whether it will be death. And even in this world where there is evil, there is pain, there is hardship, we can learn through it. We can grow through it. Everything that this world means to drag us down and destroy us can help us draw closer to God. The things that are meant for evil can be turned for good. Often it's through suffering and pain that we grow closer to the Lord. Often it's by seeing evil that we determine all the more to do good and be vessels of good. So even the evil can be used for good purposes. And then, having made our choice, having cast our lot, having said, Lord, we want you and we don't want the evil, the day will come when Jesus will return, when we will be resurrected, when we will be with him forever, and when we will be in a perfect world where there is no sin, there is no evil, there is no pain, there is no death, and God will wipe away every tear from our eyes. That day will come. But right now, we're in a world with darkness and light, with blessing and curse, with good and evil. We make choices, and even when evil comes to our door, it can be turned around as an opportunity for greater good. Our God is a Redeemer. Hey friends, many more resources waiting for you on our website, askdrbrown.org. I look forward to being with you there.
Dr. Michael Brown, your voice of moral, cultural, and spiritual revolution. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
Here's one comment that came in when we announced the interview for the brand new book, The QAnon Deception, with Professor James Beverly. We announced it on Facebook. Someone commented, Q is just exposing evil, something the mainstream media don't do. The word conspiracy theory was coined by the CIA and used these days to demean those who do their own research, which doesn't line up with the mainstream view. Q just links to many sites to expose the evil of those who follow Satan, the globalists. They want to set up a new world order and microchip everyone, which is detailed in the book of Revelation. Jim, what makes you so sure that there is conspiracy theory without truth throughout QAnon? You agree that the mainstream media is often misreporting or not reporting. Why would you come to a very different conclusion than this individual?
Well, if you study QAnon over the last 3 years, Q is not very good at predicting the future. He makes false prophecies. It started with claims that Hillary Clinton and her assistant John Podesta would be arrested. It's kept predicting Hillary's arrest for 3 years. Q predicted that Republicans would win the midterm elections. And I just read a Q teacher that I mentioned earlier named Joe M. He says it's mathematically absolutely certain that Trump will be inaugurated on January 20th. The trouble with Joe's views is he also predicted that we would know on November 3rd that Trump won. So I don't trust, Jesus says if you don't believe what someone tells you about earthly things, why would you believe them about heavenly things? Likewise, why should I believe QAnon's really extreme conspiracy theories when they don't get basic facts right, when they distort reality all the time? Again, they're not totally wrong, but the main theories about this international sex trafficking ring run by Hillary Clinton is not true. Donald Trump, the president, doesn't like Hillary Clinton, but if I was a gambler, I would bet that he would not say that Hillary kidnaps, tortures, kills, and then eats children to get their adrenochrome in order to restore and extend life. So I just think it goes too far, Michael. It blows up.
Got it. And you are saying these are things that are actually posted and believed on QAnon.
Oh, yeah. If you get the best-selling QAnon book that was #2 on Amazon in 2019, you can read everything I just said in the opening chapter, very explicit. Now, not every QAnon member believes every conspiracy theory. For example, Joe M., the teacher that I mentioned earlier, he can't stand the theory that JFK Jr. is still alive. He doesn't believe that. He may believe the alternative theory that JFK Jr. was deliberately killed by Hillary Clinton. So Anyway, it's such a mishmash of theories. But to be fair, not every QAnon member believes. Like I made a list today of 20 different conspiracy theories, and not everyone believes the Pope has been killed, or that John McCain, I mentioned, was executed for treason, or that the Wayfair Furniture Company transports kidnapped children in their big furniture boxes. But these theories spread so far in the QAnon world that the movement loses credibility. I urge QAnon people to really do their own research and start reading both sides of the story, or all sides. When I go on the Q Research Board, you don't see any sign of scholarship. In fact, let me just say this. After, I've been studying religion since I was 16. That's 50 years ago. I've been studying religions and philosophy since I was a teenager. And this is probably the only religious movement or political movement that I've studied that doesn't have scholars behind it. You take almost every other theory or ideology, there's real scholars behind it. Doesn't mean the movement or idea is true. It just means there are really sophisticated, smart people behind it. You can't find that with QAnon. Generally speaking, there's 30 or 40 books by QAnon advocates. They don't have footnotes. They don't have endnotes. They don't even refer to the most basic people. For example, QAnon people talk all the time about satanic killings. I've not seen a single reference to the most famous FBI expert on satanic ritual abuse. His name's Ken Lanning. I know Ken. I did a conference with him once, but he's absent in the QAnon material. What they do instead is they mainly assert things and then don't bother to document things carefully, much of the time.
One thing that you did that's quite extraordinary, I wouldn't do just because I think I couldn't handle the emails, but in the book, in the QAnon Deception, you actually put your email address in there and say, if you say anything factually incorrect, you want people to email you and reach out.
Yeah.
I do. If it's based on fact, I don't think you're going to get any emails. You're going to get a lot of people thanking you. But just judging on the responses, as I'm looking at our social media feeds, those that are most passionately Q, there is no truth you could present to them. In other words, everything gets turned. I'll give a quick example, and then I want to take some calls as well. Many years ago, when I was a boy, elementary school, one of my friends on a Saturday afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, fell asleep and woke up and thought, oh no, I overslept for school. He looked at the clock and he thought, I overslept for school. What did I do? It was summertime. And so he quickly gets dressed. As he's running out the door, he thinks, why is my dad sitting here at the kitchen table? Why isn't he at work? That was odd. Then as he's walking down the street, he's saying, why are the kids still playing in the street? And why aren't they all on the way to get the bus to go to school? Why are they in the wrong place? My dad's in the wrong place. They're in the wrong place. Then he looks up and he goes, why is the sun in the wrong place? That's when the light went on for him. I'm afraid, Jim, that with some folks who have just bought into this hook, line, and sinker, that they would say, aha, you see, they're even playing with the sun now. That objective truth almost doesn't exist. Right? Let's go to the phones. We'll start in Warren, Michigan. Scott, welcome to the Line of Fire.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm listening in very intently, very close. I've actually followed very intently this QAnon movement that we're talking about. QAnon has always said, think for yourself, research for yourself, and trust yourself. That's one of the things that I think is very important to put out there right from the get-go. Another thing, the gentleman that you have on says that QAnon actually hurts the child trafficking movement. Is that what I heard?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Yeah, I actually beg to differ on that. I'm gonna put this out here right from the start. I actually have some.
Hold it. Let me deal with your
family.
Scott, just hang on. Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
Let me deal with your first point, then we'll come to your second point. On the first thing, yes, I say in my chapter on the basics of QAnon, one thing good about QAnon is they say that they value research and thinking. I admire that. I just don't think they fulfill their guide, but at least it's a good idea. We should think, we should research. So that's a good point. Okay, your next point, you're in the military?
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Okay. I'm not specifically in the military myself. I have family members and very, very good friends that are pretty high up in the military. And I can tell you secondhand information, okay? QAnon is real. It's not fake. There's a lot of shows out there and a lot of disinformation.
Well, give me what most Scott. Be very specific. What is true? Because Jim has listed a whole bunch of things that are completely bogus.
I can tell you
along with Scott, hang on. Along with all
Sure.
kinds of predictions that have not come to pass. Fundamentally, what is true that QAnon is saying?
What is true that QAnon is saying?
Yeah, fundamentally.
Okay. Fundamentally, again, think for yourself, research for yourself.
But that's not QAnon. Scott. It's very specific. We got a ton of callers I want to get to. What specifically is true that QAnon is saying?
Okay. There is tons of information. We go back to October of 2017, okay?
All right,
So
Scott. I give you 4 chances to answer, okay? All I want you to give me is one statement that's true. So we're going to try it one more time. Give me a specific major thesis of QAnon that is true, sir. Just one.
Okay. First off, QAnon has predicted many different timetables regarding.
Give me one. Just give me one. Give me one.
Obama.
Scott, give me one.
One
specific.
I'm trying to, but you keep cutting me off.
No, you're not saying anything, sir. One specific.
I'm trying to get there, but you keep cutting me off.
One specific.
Okay, one thing.
All right, tell you what, Scott. That's we're wasting everyone's time. Go ahead, Jim.
He said Q has given accurate predictions about Barack Obama. Actually, Scott, get my book, and there's a section on false prophecies. Why don't you look up material that you can see on Twitter where they list all the specific Q teachings that are not true, that are wrong about Barack Obama. By now, Obama and his wife, and a lot of QAnon people believe that Michelle Obama is a man. Anyway, by now, Obama was supposed to be in prison, but Q got that wrong too.
Yeah, the frustrating thing, Jim, is we have the phone lines jammed. I want to give people respect and the ability to talk. And all I'm asking is a simple thing. When you're going to give me all the background and you can't simply give one statement, this is not going to work on radio. No one's going to get to speak. We'll hear a 10-minute lecture at the end of which we've learned nothing. So still got time for calls, but please be specific because we're not dealing with rational reasoning here. We're dealing with folks who have been duped. Talking about deep state. I'm talking about deep deception, friends. Is there such a thing as Jewish birthright? When it comes to the land, there are these birthright tours and Jewish young people go on these. What's it talking about? All right. Since we understand that Israel is the ancient homeland of the Jewish people and the only homeland on the planet that God gave to the Jewish people as a lasting homeland, and since the restoration of Israel as a Jewish homeland in 1948 remains now a very, very important issue for Jews around the world, there are now more Jews living in Israel, say, than living in America. And just about as many Jews living in Israel as in all the rest of the world combined.
This has not happened for millennia to have this situation. So, under the law of return, any Jew, if you have a Jewish mother, you can return to Israel and get citizenship. Now, they'll say, well, if you haven't converted to another religion, then they'll claim Jewish followers of Jesus have, and the religious Jews will try to keep us out. But otherwise, the understanding is if you're a Jew, right? So by rabbinic Judaism, if your mother's Jewish, if you're a Jew, then you have a birthright and the right to return to the land and live there and get citizenship. And there's a really interesting verse in Psalm 87, verse 5. It says this, of Zion it will be said, this one and that one were born in her, and the Most High himself shall establish her. So even saying there's something special if you were born in Jerusalem. There's something special about that. And it was the chosen city and where God would reveal himself. But for Jews worldwide, the concept is, if you're born a Jew, then you have the Jewish birthright, the right to return and get citizenship in the land of Israel.
It's The Line of Fire with your host, activist, author, international speaker, and theologian, Dr. Michael Brown. Your voice of moral, cultural, and spiritual revolution. Get into The Line of Fire now by calling 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
Brand new book, friends. Literally hot off the press, The QAnon Deception. Everything you need to know about the world's most dangerous conspiracy theory. You can get the ebook or the paperback on Amazon. And with that, as I'm joined by the author, Professor James Beverly, let's get to another Pro-Q caller. Casey in California, why do you differ with Professor Beverly?
Oh, no. I thought they might have told you I'm against you.
Ah, okay. Sorry, I didn't get that, but go ahead. Yeah.
I wanted to bring this to a biblical conversation. No one, you'd be shocked how many people calling themselves Christians are following Q. No one calling themselves a Christian should be following Q for this reason. There's a million, but he has catchphrases like, and they're totally against Yeshua, sheep no more. And Jesus himself calls us his sheep. And the other one is deception is necessary. Deception is never necessary. And the second thing is Q-twist scripture. It's desensitizing people to the gross atrocities and causes people to lose their love, which Yeshua says we need to keep intact in order to be saved. Child trafficking, murders, etc., pitting parties against each other.
All right, so yes, I'm just going to jump in there. So a long list of reasons why you would be against Q and sharing Professor Beverly's thoughts there. I actually wanted to get to other pro-Q callers, but I'm glad you got to weigh in. Jim, is QAnon fundamentally anti-Semitic?
There's a lot of anti-Semitism in it. It's not as bad as other groups, but if you go on the Q research board, you can get the most nasty comments like, well, if we're going to keep QAnon going to where it should go, we'll be able to get rid of Jews just like Hitler did. But most QAnon people are not anti-Semitic, and I think generally speaking, the Q people are not anti-Semitic. It's there, but it's not a big part of QAnon, thankfully. I will say this about some scholars are starting to think QAnon's a religion. I think so far it's a political ideology. But I think it fails at the Christian level because it spreads so much falsehood. The Bible says, thou shalt not lie, and yet there are a lot of lies in the QAnon world. I just read a new quote recently where Facebook is an invention of the CIA, and Zuckerberg, he's a fake. His Harvard education is not real, and even his name is all fake. Or here's another one. The Vatican is the center of global elite Luciferianism. On and on it goes. So the main reason Christians should be opposed is it detracts from the centrality of Jesus, and it spreads falsehood, and it has caused massive social and family disruption. Now, I know QAnon people believe that they, for the sake of the goal, they've got to, turn against their mother, father, grandmother, niece, etc. But that's such a tragedy because it's needless division over stuff that is largely bogus.
Hey, Jim, an out of the blue question. Would
Yep.
you have any ability at the same time tomorrow to join me on the air? Just
Oh,
wondering.
sure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Maybe we'll continue this discussion. Let's see if we can do it on our end as well, because with phone lines
Sure.
jammed and social media comments flying in, and I want to get to Marty in a moment, a pro Q caller, but you're getting blasted for your ignorance of you're confusing Q with just drops from others and shills. So again, they don't know the meticulous nature of your work and the research that you do. But how do you respond to those that say you're confusing things on QAnon?
Well, you do have to make a distinction between the Q posts, all 4,900 and some, and the larger QAnon world. But if you make a what I've done is I made a list of the most popular QAnon teachers. I read them all the time. I'm on their Twitter feed, etc. So I think to understand QAnon, you have to do more than Q. That's why the Q research site has thousands and thousands of documents, because Q posts something, then all the teachers and the bakers is what they're called, because they take the Q stuff and bake it for mass distribution. So listen, I'm pretty sure I've understood the QAnon world quite well.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And friends,
Actually, Michael, I invite people to write me at professorjimbeverly@gmail.com. Write me and show me specifically where they're concerned and where I'm wrong.
Yep. You got that, friends. There's your invitation, instead of just these ridiculous, ugly accusations. And by the way, normally we try to have a certain amount of civility on our threads, and we don't want to host all kinds of stuff that's unchristlike. We're letting it go today to expose what we're dealing with and the importance of exposing this deception. All right, Marty in Columbia, Illinois, please tell my guest why you believe he's wrong.
Well, there's several reasons. You can't really use a Q board to judge Q, because those are just comments of other people and you don't know who they are. Q posts something there and then people comment on it. A lot of it is, it's sickening. It's anti-Semitic. I mean, all kinds of stuff on there, and that's not QAnon at all. But the main reason I'm calling is proof. Is Q legit or is it not legit? And if so, how can you prove it? When I first stumbled upon Q a little over 2 years ago, I said, what in the Sam Cosmos is this? But I was reading just 2 Q drops, and they were like a military coded. So anyway, researching the 9/11, I would go back to researching on Q once in a while, and I said, there's got to be a way to prove this. Well, come to find out, there's a lot of Q proofs out there. Actually, there's a Google page, qmap.pub, or Q proofs and stuff. Anyway, here's one of the things that people can't deny. Whether you believe in or trust or support Trump or not, it doesn't matter. Q would post on the 8Q board. Trump uses Twitter. And here's the thing. Q would post a number, a phrase, or something like that, and within hours, minutes, seconds, President Trump would post, if not the exact same phrase, word, or numbers, pretty close to it. But this didn't happen once. This has happened hundreds of times. So why would they want this proof out there? Because they know people would be skeptical of trusting Q. They had to put out something out there. Well, if you trust POTUS, we're going to have to let you give you some evidence that you can trust us.
All right, so
And
Marty,
Q is,
so just to jump
Yeah.
into because we're almost out of time. Thank you for being so clear
Okay.
and presenting your reasoning. So go ahead, Jim, respond, please.
Okay, I would urge Marty to dig more carefully. A lot of those things that happen are coincidences when you have a multiplicity of events to deal with. For example, if you're looking for the number 17 because Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet, well, one QAnon person noted Trump was at a washing machine factory and he counted the number of washing machines behind Trump, and there was 17. Is that amazing? No, because you can find 17 objects all over the place. So the fact that Q and Trump use the same language doesn't necessarily mean anything. For example, one QAnon poster said, "Hey, look, the Q mentioned Happy Father's Day, and so did Trump." Sometimes the proofs amount to that level of sophistication. You know what? If Trump really thinks, if Trump has a QAnon view of the world, why wouldn't he just come out and say, "By the way, Q is high up in the U.S. military, and I'm behind him"? No, I don't think Trump knows much about Q. If he would be disgusted that Q posts on the same platform where people talk about sexually assaulting Trump's wife and daughter.
Yeah. Hey, Marty, thank you for the call. All right. So listen, everyone that's on hold now, Rachel's going to just take note. If you call in early tomorrow, we're going to continue the discussion. If you call in early, we'll get you up first. Realistically, as I'm looking at our feeds, there are a few people who are so rabidly pro-Q that there's no reasoning, there's no information, there's no fact, and of course they're not calling in either. I wish I could help people like that. I wish you could. There's only so much we can do. But you've taken the time to write the book, and I know you well enough. You're doing it out of a burden, and that's why we're getting behind getting it out. Read the book for yourselves, friend. Let me just say this. The fact that I will actually lose followers over this is a surprise even to me, because I've been pretty much oblivious to it until you brought it up in the last few months and began to research and dig into this. Friends, the book, The QAnon Deception, we're going to continue this discussion tomorrow. It looks like we have hit a nerve. God, open the eyes of your people to see truth.